underground fuel tanks and water tanks and purification, sewage lines. They had huge, right across from my office was a hangar, and in that hangar was where the U-2 spy plane was, you know.
Oh yeah,
and
one of those
that wingspan on that thing was like 200 and some feet, almost 300 feet wide, you know. And so that hangar there was just massive, and I don't know, you know, I have no clue what they would do with all of that stuff out there because they didn't really show it. What they were showing on that there was just showing the birds, you know, what they were doing with the birds and how the poor birds, the stuff that wash up on the beach there that has, you know, the styrofoam in it, or it has little pieces of plastic this on it, and the poor birds are eating it and choking and killing them and stuff. Well, there's about probably 10 billion birds out there anyway, so it didn't hurt to choke a few of them to death with this stuff, you know, and feed them to the sharks and stuff. So, but I had no clue what they did with it. It amazes me, and so I'm sure they did the same thing with Curry Island. It had that tower that was probably, I would say, 350 feet tall. I mean, it was just huge, and I'm sure that had to come down because you had to have, you know, lights on it. Something that high, you'd have to have lights on it so planes and stuff like that would be able to see it and everything, you know. But it was kind of interesting. And then there again, you know, you like Iwo Jima, Guadalcanal, places like that. You know, you can't. Those are all national.
Wake Island's another one, yeah.
National cemeteries or whatever for the Japanese and everything.
Yeah, it was returned to Japan. I think it's 63 or 64, something like that. And now you have to. It's a military installation. And they bring in the curators or whatever, and they're still collecting remains and things like that. And they bring back some Iwo Jima veterans a couple years back. You know, they do it every once in a while, Japanese and Americans together, and they go tour the island together with their families or something like that. It wasn't me. I wasn't an NCO, but when we were heading to Singapore in 2001, there in December 2001, they had the NCO course, Corporal's course. They got to take them over to Iwo Jima because the bomber Shard just went right by it, and they flew them out on a helicopter, and then we went by it, and then they flew them back on or whatever. And I really wish I could do that, but I did get some sand. Some guy gave me some sand from Iwo Jima a couple of years ago. And I got that, so now I'm waiting to get a little Tabasco bottle, because that's where I got all my different sands from the different countries I've been to. Real quick, I want to jump over to two things. That hurricane in New York, and then you getting that guy that picked you up at night, and you guys drove all the way through. Remember that? When that salesman or whatever gave you and somebody else a ride home back, you were trying to get back, you were on leave or something like that.
The hurricane, I wasn't in New York, I was down in Long Island Sound. The ship I was on was down in New London, Connecticut. And New London, Connecticut is right there. My ship was tied up right across from Electric Boat, where your atomic subs are built, and then they drop them off of there at the Electric Boat deal there. Well, what happens is when you get a hurricane, Long Island Sound is not deep water. It's pretty shallow water out there, and I guess that's why it's such a good place for lobsters and stuff like that. You know, because they do the lobsters all the way from Rhode Island, Boston, and all the way back down to Connecticut, all the way to New York, I guess. And anyway, when the hurricane came, we, of course, you know, even in those days, we knew when the hurricanes were coming, because that was part of the Coast Guard's responsibility, was weather in those days. So, you know, your Florida and the Gulf of Mexico and eastern seaboard there was doing all the weather stuff, and so we knew when these hurricanes were coming and everything. So what happens is, you know, all the small boats are all notified that they're coming. So just like nowadays, if there's a hurricane coming, normally the guys get their boats and they drag them out of the water, you know, put them under trailers and put them someplace and to try to make them safe and everything, because you can't leave it, a real good hurricane, you can't leave it in the water, no matter how it's tied up, because it just beats them to pieces and everything because of the ocean and everything. So anyway, the ship was a Mariposa, and it was a 180 footer, and so we went out we were on the let's see, that would be the eastern side of what is that island?
Long Island, or
no, it wasn't Long Island. It was an island out there just off the coast of New London, Connecticut, out there, and kind of not a whole peanut shaped type thing, maybe a cashew type, you know, just a little bit of a cove there. And so the weather's coming out of the southeast down through Atlanta, Georgia, and that area there, coming up the coast. And so we're on the lee side of the island, and we're anchored there. Well, a Coast Guard ship is buoy tender's a pretty easy one to do, because we have all these 50,000 pound cement blocks that we use there to put buoys on. You know, you have a chain, you just hook a chain to it and drop that down onto the bottom of the ocean, and then the buoy's on it, you know, and then the buoy just goes up and down. It'll drift a little bit because you don't, you know, the tide's coming in and out and everything. So, well, with this here, what you can do with this here, you know, we have 2 anchors, and so they would drop an anchor here and then back up and drop another anchor and then pull a little bit fuller, so you got, you know, a little bit of slack out of it and everything. And then they would take a 50,000 pound buoy or sinker and then hook a chain to it and then drop it out to the starboard side and one to the port side, you know. So you're just kind of got 4-point deal there that you're kind of protected and everything on that there. So naturally, it seems like every time I'm in one of these things, it always comes in the middle of the night, and it was in the middle of the night and everything, and I was standing a helm watch. I was a seaman, and I was standing a helm watch, and so you're not going anyplace because you're anchored. You're anchored down, and the motors are running and everything, but you're not going anywhere. You're just sitting there, you know, and you can't steer into it or whatever, because you got a 4-point deal holding you down. So that thing started rolling. You get to rolling when that thing gets up there, and I don't know. I would guess the bridge was maybe, I don't know, on a flat surface it would maybe be 25 feet off the water, you know, straight off the water. And even with the 4-point deal and everything, you could go out on the side, out on the wing of the side here with the hurricane going and take a bucket, and you could just reach down and get a bucket of water. It was going over so stinking far and everything. The funny thing, I never got seasick. All those times I never got seasick, and every time your mom and your grandpa and I would go all deep sea fishing over out of Moore Bay or something, I'd get seasick every stinking time.
Alcohol had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, probably so, and I never had that happen.
Were you guys drinking on ship?